Hey y'all, welcome back to season 4 of Soul Supremacy, where we talk about all things unapologetic, all things passion, and in pursuit of. I didn't think I was gonna remember that. It has been over a year since I've said this. We made it to season 4, y'all. Just some quick updates. Welcome to my new space in LA. Some of y'all know I've been living in the hostel system, so which made it a little hard for me to do the podcast. But now that we're settling in, we can get back into the mix. So for this season, I can obviously want to continue to highlight and amplify, really dope creatives that I respect and also admire. And also, too, in the mix, I also want to be intentional and actually want to highlight not not just filmmakers, but I also want to highlight some of my casting crew for my upcoming short film Rec, which will be coming out this spring. So watch out for the different casting crews that has gotten to work on this project throughout this season. So, but as we continue, I just want to preface our first episode. Okay, our first episode. He is this person, amazing. No, just kidding. Amazing person that I hadn't met yet, but around the time this episode comes out, we would have met already. So I will, you know, uh, I will include some what's that called? Some clips to see how that goes real time. No, just kidding. So this person was someone that I met online from one of my last film festivals that I got to do for Ang Huling Saya, where both of us actually became award winning filmmakers for our works. And ever since then, we've just kind of kept in touch. And a year later, finally meeting, my hair's chopped off. By the way, y'all, I'm back to my season one. Actually, not even as actually season one, like in the photo, I'm bald, but actually, this is the first time I'll be bald for this looks. Without further ado, y'all, let's welcome Douglas Spaltrow into the first episode of season 4. Welcome. How are you?
Yay.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, and that's all I got time for. Good night, everybody. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm sitting here in front of the Fort Worth Museum of Modern Art. My daughter's in a an art program here, so I just wait for her. Got a couple hours to kill.
Yeah, and again, thank you for being my guinea pig because I was like, I need to test this with someone, and in hindsight, like the people that I had on the podcast, I was joking. Just kidding.
Wine.
I'm just
Sorry
kidding.
about that. Wrong tube.
No, just kidding. Yeah, no, no,
I'm
no.
back.
Honestly, this is just a test episode, but I was like, you know what? I just want to do this because I also don't want to get too stuck in being in the overthinking and the analysis paralysis mode. Before we continue, I just want to take the time to read his bio. So, Douglas E. Spaltrow is a screenwriter and director from Portland, Maine, and a retired U.S. Air Force veteran. While living and working in the UAE in the defense aerona- uh, aeronautics industry after his military career, he wrote his first feature screenplay. Upon returning to the United States, he earned a BFA in creative writing for entertainment. Spaltro has since written 10 feature screenplays, 4 television pilots, and 8 short films that have been recognized by the Academy Nicholl Fellowships, Page International, Short Scripts, and the Austin Film Festival. Final Draft, American Zoetrope, Story Labs, and much more. He is also a 2021 and 2022 Fellow of the Writers Guild Foundation Veterans Writing Program. His directorial debut short film, Apple, follows the last two souls on Earth, a 10-year-old boy and girl, as the fate of humankind rests on their inability to communicate and compromise. He later wrote and directed Millie and Milo, about a trans woman Vietnam War veteran who seeks out an old army friend she has always loved. So speaking of that lengthy bio, no, just kidding. So speaking of that last film too, I just wanna, say that I'm really, really proud of this film. I've gotten the chance to see it. And I'm also really proud that, he decided to go one more time and, take it out of the retirement and submit it to the Las Vegas Filipino Short Film Festival, which again, we're gonna be meeting for the first time around this
Right.
time next week. And we're gonna obviously update, probably in the comment section about which one it was nominated for, but it is also up for some awards, which we
Yeah, we'll
don't
find out Monday. Yeah.
this moment. We'll find out tomorrow. So yeah, I lost my train of thought.
So we met, it's probably about a year ago. As you said before, both of our films were honored at the Dream Manila Film Festival. And because they changed up their festival year that year, it wasn't going to be in person, and it ended up being just online, right? And then so after the film festival was done, I saw you and I saw some blurps about you on maybe Film Freeway or something, and then I learned that you were on the West Coast. So I hit you up, and then we became friends on, was it Twitter or Instagram first? I forget.
It was face
Was it Facebook the first time? Right, yeah, you're right, right, and then, yeah, we've been friends ever since and champion each other's work since then. We'll meet for the first time next weekend.
Yeah. Again, we're just gonna free flow with this since it has been over a year since I've last recorded. Things change. Haircuts, by the way. Yeah. So, I guess since we're now talking about that, what were your expectations? Kind of. So I know that like both of us expected to. I guess for you, I'm sure you expected to fly into the Philippines and attend the physical film festival. But, if you don't mind sharing like some of your thoughts about, how you felt about what ended up happening, because I know when it became, I'm grateful. I'm not gonna be like, like Dream Manila, has continued to like champion us, but specifically me, like as they were, the first ones to give me my awards, and with this one, you know, I got my first Best Director award, in which I was shocked because I will say, like I know I've told you this in our conversations. I was like in the back of my mind, like screenplay or at least like actor, what I mean? Like one of my actors getting recognized. But for me to be recognized in that capacity, I was like, holy shit. You know what I mean? And Douglas, what did you win for this?
Honestly, I'm on the spot. I f I forget, I'd have to check my spreadsheet that I have on my awards, but
Spreadsheet?
it was nominated for, I think I got honorary or, like, maybe runner up for best director or something. I forget, honestly. I hate to say it, but as far as my expectations were, yeah, I was really upset when they decided to not have it in person. And not to throw stones, I will say that the correspondence with the film festival was almost non-existent. I reached out to them numerous times. Um, and then even after the film festival, when when I spoke with you, I said, "Hey, let me organize a group Zoom chat for a meet and greet for all the filmmakers that made it into the film festival." That way there, because we weren't able to meet each other online previously because they didn't do anything for us and we weren't able to be there in country, right? So I reached out to them, and then I put a blurb on Film Freeway. Say, hey, for all you folks, let's organize that. Let's For us filmmakers, let's have a meet and greet. It'll be fun. And nothing. The film festival never replied back. They didn't. Yeah. So communication was non-existent. Okay, it is what it is. That's fine. We moved on, and like I said, so ever since then, yeah, we've been communicating ever since and championing each other's work. And it was you that mentioned to me, because I had already finished submitting my film Milly and Milo. I was done submitting because it was very expensive. I submitted to a lot of film festivals, and then you said, "Hey, there's a Filipino one in Las Vegas," and so I reached out to them and I said, "I'm just an average white guy, but I do have a Filipino tattoo on my arm." And then my cinematographer, the amazing Carlo Mendoza, does that qualify me for the film festival? And they said, "Yep, submit." So yeah, here we are, and now we're nominated for an award, which we'll find out tomorrow.
I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really curious too. Sean was like, "Sorry, can't tell you."
Yeah. You know what though? I think too the friends of the people from Dream Manila. I think a lot. I'm not a representative or obviously can't speak for them, but I think from what I was hearing, like some of it had to do with budgeting because too, like I know Jose Al. Oops. Hopefully,
Sounds like airstrikes coming in. They're
yo,
after you.
no King's March.
E.
Me too. Okay, so as I was saying, for for a cleaner, like Jose Alvarez, he's actually very well known in the queer industry in the Philippines. Jose Alterejos, he's very well known in the industry. He's very well known in the industry, and I've actually watched one of his films. I think Casal the Commitment. He's a queer director. So in that way, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, like this film festival obviously has like credibility and prestige. But like what you're saying, I was also very not that I could make it, you know what I mean? But I just also expected it to be different.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, it is what it is. But when when you reach out to somebody inquiring and whatever, and they don't reply, it's disheartening, and that's all. I just just any reply would have been great. Hey, sorry, man, can't do this or whatever, you know, whatever. But anyway, moving along.
Yeah, we got our awards and
Yeah,
even if it's their last one, like thank you for giving us our
yeah.
yeah, actually, why don't actually I'm gonna hop straight into the main questions. I just don't know how the audio, the circling is gonna be. But if you don't mind sharing with our audience, like how was a young Douglas growing up? How were you like as a kid?
Um, so I grew up in a musical family. My father was a guitar player. My older brother was a drummer. Um, I'm a guitar, so I grew up in a musical family, and I started out playing the drums, and I switched to the guitar in about 1976. And yeah, I was born in 1965. There were 6 kids in my family. I went to college right out of high school. Graduated high school in 1983. Went to college, and so I wrote a lot of music. I wrote a lot of poetry, short stories, things of that nature. And even back then, I always wanted to act, but my father always told me I had a face for radio. So I figured, well, maybe I'll just be on the other side of the camera lens. In 1987, I joined the Air Force, and before I retired, I was an extra in 2 different films. One film called Mozart and the Whale with Josh Hartnett, and then also another film right before I retired called Taking Chance with Kevin Bacon. And just being on set, I mean, like a big movie set, it just really fueled my desire to want to do something in that creative realm, right? So after I retired in 2007, a few months later, I was in the Middle East working for Lockheed Martin. I was there for about 3 years, and that's when I my Filipino wife, and that's when I wrote my first feature, screenplay, and it was of course, it's horrible. Most everybody's first screenplay is horrible, and I hadn't gone to school yet. I'd just gone, looked online to look at formatting, and I wrote it in Microsoft Word. And then, in 2010, we came back to the States. I was still in defense aeronautics. And a couple of years later, I'm earning a Bachelor of Fine Arts for screenwriting, creative writing for entertainment. I graduated I was working 70 hours a week. I was working 70 hours a week and going to school and raising a family. We have a young daughter, and graduated with honors. I was pretty proud of myself. And as soon as I graduated in, I think, 2014, I've just been writing ever since, and started submitting to a lot of screenwriting competitions. I became a script reader for 3 different the competitions to include Austin Film Festival. And when I got my first, it was a feature film that I wrote, a really heavy drama. And when I got my first laurels, when I got my first placement in a big competition, I cried like a baby. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was getting ready for work. I was in the kitchen, standing on a cold floor, and I opened up my email and I saw that I made the quarterfinals for one of my feature films that I had written. I cried like a baby because it just gave me that, that feeling that, okay, I'm on the right path anyway. All this, I'm not wasting my time. So that was a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, you basically give us your life's memoir. I only asked you how were you as a kid growing up,
Oh,
but it was good though because
I was a great kid.
questions. So, for my supremes, okay, this is my second time saying in my community, my supremes. Come on. First of all, I'm sure you're noticing, uh, Douglas is our first puti, kababayan. Yes, you know, puti, white. And I know you know. So, and as you were talking, I actually just kind of that clicked to me. And then second, the reason why I also wanted to invite him for that aspect is because with a lot of our guests, like a lot of them are my age, maybe just a little older, or maybe some a little younger. But actually, what I've really appreciated about him in our the times that we've been getting to know each other is he is this person that is like super established in his career, but is also like still also trying to push to make this career happen. And in many ways this almost looks like he's working backwards. Whereas for me it's like we're kind of going like this, and then for him he's kind of going like kind of like he's already up there, you know what I mean? And yeah, I think this is a really 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 good perspective to have on the show, is actually seeing someone work really hard, despite of your other career. And then if I may share like some of the things you've shared about, like maybe not having the full support from those you expect to have full support.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that down the line, yeah. And lastly,
Right. So if I can interject, so when I came back to the States in 2010 and I was still doing defense aeronautics for Lockheed Martin, when I was,
can you actually, I didn't know what defense aeronautics is.
so basically, we deal with all the war fighting airplanes in the Air Force, Marines, Navy,
Like that plane flying out over here.
like what?
That plane that was, or no, that was a helicopter, just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, but still, yeah, defense aeronautics is the companies that build war fighting airplanes, and so that's what I did in the military. I worked on F-16s most of my career. But so going back to when we came here, my wife asked me, "So are you going to go back to college for like engineering?" And at that point, so I was 40, 45 or so. I forget, and I was like, "No, I have no desire. I don't have the passion for that." I said, "I want to get my degree in screenwriting." She's like, "Why do you wanna do that?" I said, "Because it's what I wanna do. I'll be wasting my time furthering my," because the thought was, "Hey, if I get my engineering degree, then I can, keep going up the corporate ladder in defense aeronautics and with Lockheed Martin." But it wasn't my passion. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I was like, "Yeah, I wanna be a screenwriter. I wanna make films." And so this late in life, in my mid-40s, I made that change. And in a way too, it's it wasn't so difficult to do because I do have my military retirement as well, so that I have that to fall back on. Some people, they don't, maybe they did some other job and they don't have a retirement yet. So I have that kind of uh, safety net. So I wasn't so scared about changing gears, even though, so honestly, when I started going, it was like, oh, I want to get my degree in screenwriting. I want to make films. I'm realistic. I know I'm not going to get rich doing this unless I get really lucky someday, but I do it because I love it and I don't want to not do it. So that's
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, it's your second life, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's my passion. So
Your
why,
life.
why would anybody want to try to stop somebody else from doing something they're passionate about?
You know what? I have a follow-up question. So speaking of storytelling, I mean, I'm pretty sure that like you deciding to take the route that you did, like that's obviously informed the way you show up and the way you tell your stories and storytelling.
Hmm.
So that's my first question. And my second question is, did you feel like you had let's say that you had a chance to go back in time, would you have pursued this at 18 versus 45?
So that's a really tough question, and I think about that from time to time. But here's the thing, E, if I had done that, if I, as a young person, as in my 20s, not joining the military and go, I'm just gonna go into screenwriting, you know, you think of somebody that in their 20s, they're immature, they don't have a whole breadth of experience, and maybe they just stayed in their hometown, whatever. And so they don't what kind of stories do they'll have some stories. But for me, doing 20 years in the military, getting the opportunity to travel all around the world, see some really amazing things, see some really horrible things, and it helps form. I think all that experience helps form a storyteller's opinion in a way that really comes out on the page. So I don't think I would trade it. I don't think I would say I'll swap it. If I can go back in time, forget my military career, forget all that stuff. I'm going to start, making films. Then I would have been, somebody making films, ill informed about the world. So, I'm pretty happy with the decision that I made. And like I said, I think storytellers that are my age, that have lived a life and have lived through, you know, love and marriage and divorce and death and whatever, who have those experiences all part of their psyche, that really informs their storytelling as opposed to some 20-year-old kid that's never left their hometown. So yeah, I don't have any regrets.
Wow, that was cool. I have another question. I actually have a
Mhm,
for me, it's a hard question. To you, it might not come out that way. I'm sure it's
mhm,
not. I'm sure it might not be a hard question for you, but we're friends. You know what I mean? We're getting
mhm,
to know each
mhm.
other, and you're my first guest. And I want to ask this question because we are in a safe space, and this is the space where we do talk about all things unapologetic and what. I'm just curious, like in your opinion, as a cis het white man, why does your voice matter?
Wow, that's a really good question. So I don't think I don't think it matters, how you identify, what you look like. Everybody's voice matters because you think of, you sit in a coffee shop and you can look around a coffee shop and everybody there looks different. Everybody there comes from a different background and different belief systems and different moral values, and everybody's character is a little different, and it's beautiful and it's amazing, and everybody's voice matters. I don't think it matters if you're straight, bi, cis. I don't think it matters. But I think what probably stands out is somebody like me as a storyteller. Now, I think it kind of shines the light on my opinion. What I was trying to tell with my film Millie and Milo, it's a trans love story. It matters in that aspect, I think, because you're right, I'm a cis white male, and I'm telling a trans love story between um, a black person and a white person, a trans woman and a male, and it's just the tagline to my film is "Be who you are and love who you want." That's if everybody can just live like that and accept that, it would be much different existence for everybody. So where people that are in the LGBTQ community, they won't feel in danger when they walk down the street. If people will go, there's a gay couple. "Hey, man, how you doing?" As opposed to, the scowls and the looks and the jeers and the comments and stuff like that. And I made it because of how polarized we are. And my goal was, and I know I'm getting long-winded, but the reason why it matters, so my goal was to show the film, and if there's anybody that's on the fence about the LGBTQ community or somebody that's not an ally or whatever, they could watch this film because it's really subtle. The way I handled the material was really subtle, and I was hoping that once the credits roll, they would look at each other and go, "Did I just really enjoy a trans love story?" And then start to see them as people. They're just people. Everybody's people, and to demonize somebody because of who they're attracted to is just it's so insane. So, I guess maybe in a way, coming from a cis male, maybe it speaks differently. I don't know.
Thank you. Thanks for answering that question. Yeah, actually, actually, I mean, I do have a few more questions, but you basically kind of talked about a lot of the things I wanted to kind of touch up on. I mean, so we're gonna end obviously with Millie and Milo because that's currently, and then also you can talk about your like your script that you're working on if you wanna give room for that. But before we transition into those last couple of sections of for this episode, okay, episode, can you actually go more in depth and go a little deeper in terms of like um your expertise in storytelling? Because I don't, maybe once, but I'm not entirely sure if I've really had a writer, if I've featured a writer yet. I think you might be the first one. So I definitely want to, give some time and space to, maybe share some tips and advices in terms of
Mhm.
about the industry. Anything you'd like to share, and then obviously if I have it, and of course with that I'll have some follow-up questions that'll be built from that.
Okay. Alright, so if I ramble on, you'll have to cut me, just say, "Hey, Doug, you're rambling," 'cause I have a lot to say about this.
Oh, oh no, please. So actually I
So
was gonna say, I was like, the rambling is good. It's good for the content.
okay. Alright. So writing so the phrase that every writer hears, is writing is rewriting. I'm constantly rewriting. I've had some talented writing friends of mine read my work and they go, "Man, your writing is kinda like Hemingway." So Hemingway was was famous for writing in such a terse manner, very succinct, but that every sentence was true and short and whatever. So my writing is very succinct. I don't write a whole lot of, try not to write exposition. So I got my degree in screenwriting, BFA, and then you just practice all the time. You keep writing. You're writing. I've done some classes. I've done a master writing class with James V. Hart a couple years back. He's the guy that wrote Hook, with Robin Williams. Done a master class with him. So always don't ever think, "Oh man, I think I got it. I don't need any help." Always learn more. Always, take, some classes or read screenplays all the time. Always read screenplays all the time. Read other people's, your friends' screenplays and let them read your screenplays. Let them give you their thoughts on it. And not that, if somebody says, "I don't like this character, you need to change it." You don't jump and move on every note because you're the storyteller. You know your character because they came from right here. Sometimes that's an easy trap to fall into. Somebody who maybe you're friends with or you respect will make a comment about an element in your story, and then you go to change it just because they said it. You heard it from one person, and then now all of a sudden your story doesn't work. And it's like, well, because you were right the first time. You should have, so trust yourself. Know story. You need to know how story works. There's a lot of, story gurus out there, Robert McKee, John Truby. Of course, and Save the Cat is a big one that everybody knows when you go to school. They have you, read Save the Cat. Aristotle Poetics, all that stuff. Take those into play in the back of your head, but as long as you know what you want to say with your story. So I'll kind of, well, I'll stick with Millie and Milo. What I wanted to say with Millie and Milo is, hey, let's stop being so damn polarized in this world, and be, you don't have to, agree with the way somebody lives that you don't agree with, but you don't need to beat them up over it. So that's what I was trying to, you want to be able to, with every story, you just don't write a story, just for fun, just for fun. You want to be able to say something to your audience about the story from when you type in fade in to fade out, that they're going to pull something away from that.
Earlier, you talked about how you came from a musical family, and I'm assuming music was one of the first ones. But would you say that writing is natural to you, or was that something that you had to actively develop as a person?
And so I would say it was almost natural to me, um, because I've always thought creatively. I've always wanted to write something that would move somebody in a certain way. If I wanted to make somebody laugh, if I wanted to make somebody go, that's heartbreaking or whatever. I wrote a couple of short stories that even when I was in high school in the 80s, that made the school paper because they were pretty moving. But I'll tell you, writing prose and then switching up to writing screenplay format, it's night and day. You really have to learn the format of, you might be a great storyteller, but you need to learn script formatting and how that works. So I
Oh,
mean, and then once you learn that, then your storytelling just falls onto the page. So
I have another follow-up question, and this is just me. My brain is like jumping everywhere because obviously this was spontaneous improv. I think those that are tuning in might also be interested in, the film festival route, the professional route. Well, because actually I'm thinking of a really good friend of mine, Trixie. Shout out to Trixie and Agia, my ate, in crime with the arts. She's actually writing a pilot, and we were just kind of talking about how, like, oh, how do we get this scene? Like, I mean, because for me too, I am like in the process of now writing my feature pilot too, and like, if you don't mind sharing some industry biz info on like how could someone actually, I mean, because obviously writing is, like not just the main meat, especially when you're talking about screenplay and such,
right,
unless if you plan to sell it or if you plan to get it. I mean, obviously, I think at the end of the day, you write something in hopes to get it developed.
right,
So,
right.
yeah, would you mind sharing some of your yeah, tips and advice for those like me, like
I would say tips and advice, not expertise, but some tips and advice. So you feel that you have a good script, whether it's a, huh?
no, I was like, they sounded the same to me. Expertise, tips and advice. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, you know, so you're a writer and you have a short script. We'll go with a short script starting out. And you feel like, oh, you can submit it to contests, and then you can start, there are some contests that are short film fundraisers that if you win, you'll get, 15,000 or $20,000 to produce that short script, right? That's really rolling the dice, and don't ever, bank on that. Although
Would
I have
you, sorry to interrupt, would you say that that is a common, because like obviously as we've been getting to like know each other, like I've told you that I'm not the most versed in your world in the screenwriting festival,
right,
is that common? Like in terms of like the writers, people in your field,
right.
like yeah, I'm curious.
So so as far as us screenwriters on the outside of the Hollywood bubble, we kind of have to rely on the script writing competitions to start elevating the script, because once you start, so there's a handful of screenwriting competitions that are really worthy to submit. And then there's a bucket load of screenwriting competitions that won't do anything for you, even if you take first place.
What are some of what the notable ones? Which ones would you recommend?
Some of the notable good ones. So the Rolls Royce of screenwriting competitions is the Academy Nichols. If you if you get your name on, if you place as a quarterfinalist, and then they'll announce some weeks later the semifinalists and the finalists and the winners. But even if you're a quarterfinalist, there are managers and agents, Hollywood managers and agents that sees that list, and they will reach out to you and they'll say, "Hey, I saw your name, and I saw the log line to your screenplay. Send it to us. Would like to take a look at it." And that's a big deal because otherwise you cannot solicit. You just can't go, "Hey, Management 360 or Zero
Yeah,
Gravity,
yeah,
whatever.
but
I want you to read my screenplay."
without an agent or a manager or something, you can't like
No,
solicit.
no, they will not take unsolicited material. But when they reach out to you, because I saw your name on Academy Nichols, so Academy Nichols is a big one. Page International is a big one. Final Draft Big Break. Final Draft is the software that most of us use in the industry.
Want to sponsor this final draft? Come on.
Hey, yeah. Austin Film Festival is another one. There's a handful of really, really good screenwriting competitions that are willing that placing in there. They try to get your name in front of managers and agents and stuff like that. Like I said, the other crap ones. If you win for, I won third prize in one years ago when I first started out. Third prize. And then they said, "Hey, please send us $165 for your trophy." So they wanted me to send them money so I could buy my trophy. And then that's all they weren't going to send your name off to managers or anything like that. So you got to do your research. So screenwriting competitions, they are beneficial, and they are hard to start placing in because it's really it's a crapshoot, because each competition they have their hired readers, script readers, like Austin Film Festival, for instance. A lot of those readers are young folks that they read. If they read X number of scripts, then they get a free badge for the film festival, which is every October, which is next week. That I won't be at, but I'll be with you. So you don't know who the reader is. It could be some college student, could be a single parent, could be somebody working two jobs, somebody's watching TV and playing on TikTok, and they're just breezing through your screenplay. They go, So it's really a crapshoot to place in a competition. But it is nice to start building those laurels up. So when the time does come, when you can talk, a manager wants to see your stuff and they can see, oh my God, this person's placed in this competition and that competition. So they are worthy in that aspect. And that's like I said, no business is gonna take unsolicited material.
Like I had to become a writer because of the stories I wanted to tell. Though I've worked with a good friend before, Dr. Matthew Portman, by the way. I met my last semester in my undergraduates at San Diego State, where I got my BFA too. Like he wrote one of my past queer shorts, Flight, and I think I got to the point where I was like, I knew like I wanted to tell my story, but then I felt like I was like, do I have to like it can't like I can't like it can't be that I have to like depend on him to write for me. You know what I mean? So I was like, and then pandemic happened, and then these stories just became more louder. And I
Mm,
was like, you know what? I'ma just fake it till I make it. Like, I mean, honestly, Ang Huling Saya were actually Ang Huling Sayaw and Uhaw were the first two projects where I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna let the story lead.
mm,
Because actually, a question that I wanted to ask you too was obviously like creative, like creative versus technical. Like I'm definitely more of a creative writer, and you sound like you are obviously more blended now, but you feel a little bit more technical to me, you know. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, there's an audience for each.
yeah,
Or like there's an audience for everything. Like you can be
right,
a
right.
crime writer, but then story trumps. Actually,
Yeah.
let's not use that.
No,
story
don't say that word.
kings. You know what I mean? Or well, it doesn't
Oh,
work either.
I know what I wanted to say, E, what I wanted to follow up. So you have a great script. You think you have a great script. You submit it to screenwriting competitions, and don't feel bad if you don't place. Doesn't mean your script sucks. Like I said, it could be the gatekeeper, the first person to read it. They're just not into it. Maybe they got they're watching TV at the same time. They're just trying to get burned through as many scripts as they can. Don't think your script sucks if you don't place in a competition, because we all know plenty of people that have amazing scripts that have done well in other competitions, that other competitions go, oh no, we're not even interested, whatever. So you got a great script, you want to make it. There are resources. So in Texas, where I'm from, there's a website, the Texas Film Commission website. Most states should have it, and then there's so many resources. So you can go on your state film commission website, and then post. They have to approve it. They'll look it over, and then you post, "Hey, I'm a writer director. I have this script. I'm looking for a cast and crew," and they'll post it, and then you'll start. And that's how I made a Millie Milo. That's how I got in touch with my producer who produced Millie and Milo. He's a big time producer, Paul Merriman, and that's how we got connected because he saw. So every state has their resources. So here's the thing: nobody's gonna knock on your door and say, "Hey, I want to give you $10,000, $20,000 to make your film." You have a script, you go, damn it, I'm going to make a film. You find a community of filmmakers, because if you talk to a gaffer or an electrician, they go, oh yeah, I've worked with these 7 or 8 guys and gals of they all there's one's a DP, one's whatever, and then everybody knows everybody, and then you can work with them to make your film. Do what you got to do, whatever it takes to make your film. And that's what I did with Millie and Milo. It cost me a lot of money, but I wasn't going to not make it. I spent a lot of money out of pocket. And then I had to take out a loan because my GoFundMe didn't work because I'm afraid to ask for money. I'm not afraid. I just don't like to ask for money. So, but I did it. Financially, it was very painful. It was not a pleasant experience, but I did what it took to make my film. And you have to too, even if it's only a couple $1,000s. Find the resources in your state and your local area with filmmakers. You can hunt them down, and like I said, once you find one, they're all connected to so many other people, and then you can get your movie made, and now you have something visual instead of just a script.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I'm like, you know what? I am really glad that I mean, like, it has been a minute too, but I'm just like, oh, we've been landing a nice like momentum and pace with this interview. I mean, since you've like referred to Millie and Milo multiple times, which I'm like, oh, that's a great transition. I'm gonna make it official, and we will transition into your current. I would say current because like you are a writer and you will work on many more signature pieces, in your
Hmm.
life. Let's talk about your current signature work, Millie and Milo. If you could, now this is the time to talk about the inspiration, the characters you've created. You were starting to talk about like the producing aspect of it.
Hmm.
Let's I think let's start from the beginning of this whole journey.
All right, so the Millie and Milo genesis was, so I have 4 kids, three older kids, and then my teenage daughter. I have a gay son and a gay daughter, and they've both been in situations to where it's been pretty scary for them. People have vandalized my son's car on college campus with slurs and stuff, and just, but them being gay, they've been in very, really uncomfortable, sometimes dangerous situations. So, and then that's why I kind of wanted to tell this story about how polarized we are. And so that was the pearl that started going in my head. Okay, how can I tell this? How can I get this idea across? Okay, let me create these 2 characters. And
Around
I
this, by the way, I'm curious.
come again.
When? Around when?
So, gosh, this was maybe 4 years ago when I first wrote it. I'll have to look at my notes. It's been a couple years. 'cause when I first wrote it, then I submitted it to, um, a bunch of film festivals and even made Austin Film Festival. It was a second rounder, and then it started to get noticed in all these other screenwriting competitions. So I knew I had a story that was moving people, connecting with people. And then that's when I had already known that I wanted to make this film because I thought this would be a really good film for film festivals to where I could share this on much a wider platform. And like I said before, so people who are on the fence with the LGBTQ community to go, did I just enjoy a trans love story? Um, I so I picked that a so Millie and Milo. I picked the Vietnam War because so my oldest sister Victoria, she's 72. She's beautiful. She's lovely. She's kind and giving, and she's single. And I just know that she's lonely. She watches Hallmark TV every night with a glass of wine, and I know that she would love to have, like a companion, somebody to share her time with. I just know she would. So the reason why I chose the Vietnam War period, because I wanted to pick two people around that same age to tell a story that it doesn't matter how old you are. If you want a companion, if you want a life partner or companion, whatever, it's not too late. There's somebody else out there for you. So that's why I started thinking, okay, people in their early 70s, okay, Vietnam War. And then I made one white and one black because, at that time, especially in the late 60s, the race riots and all that stuff. And that was just another barrier for these two people to not be together during the war. One's black, one's white. One is an officer, one is enlisted. And I will add, here's and you've seen the film, right? So people have asked me, and they made comments. So Milo's gay, right? I was like, no. What makes you think he's gay? Just because he backstory is these two characters, Milo and Max, they were two soldiers that served together. They loved each other, they respected each other, they had a common bond, but it wasn't anything sexual or physical. They just relied on each other to get through what they had to. They were brothers in war. Although Maximilian, who was later Millie, of course, Maximilian was, knew he was the wrong. He was not in the. Oh, she was not in the right body. But during that time, she gets drafted and she had to go to war. Anyway, so a lot of people ask me, is Milo gay? No, he's not gay. And a lot of the research that I did with transgender relationships, most men that are with trans women are straight men, straight cis men that are with trans women, right? So when people say Milo's gay, I don't think Milo's gay. I don't think he's gay. And what I would suggest them perhaps consider is maybe he's pansexual. He's just basically he's just somebody that there are two brains and
Like
two hearts that just have a connection. It doesn't matter what the physicalities of their body are. They're just two people that have a
this,
connection. Yeah. Yeah. It's not a sexual thing. Like,
I can, by the way, but I see the connection between like just the attraction.
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it could be
So,
pen. Who knows? It's a pen.
that was kind of the whole idea behind that age, just to show people, because I wanted to connect with other people, other thoughts, hey, I'm lonely, I'm 68, I'm 75, you know, so these two people show me it's not too late to find a companion, to find love or whatever. Um, yeah, and that was the whole genesis behind making the film because we're so polarized, you know, people are people, doesn't matter who they're attracted to or why. It's none of your damn business. Let people live their lives.
You know what I will say? Like, I mean, I don't think. Yeah, no, I never got to ask you about that part. So that was really refreshing to hear the genesis and the motivations behind like
Mhm.
sculpt the characters and the world together. I mean, again, we keep going back to like around this time next week, you would have already screened your film again in a public
Mhm.
audience in a
All right.
time where actually we need I mean, as you were talking about that, like the fact that you made your film before, but then it's like now you kind of need to. I mean, it's on YouTube, but then it almost feels like you need to bring it out again, bring it back. There
Yeah,
needs to be more
remind people.
now,
Yeah,
because we're back. We're kind of going back during those times.
yeah, yeah. And actually, this is good, Adrian, too, because it lets me because I'm working on other projects now. So sometimes that those past projects they fall to the back of my head. So it's nice to be thinking about this again to really prepare myself for next week. If people want to, discuss how it came about, why I did it, and whatnot. So it's nice to get that, get those thoughts going back in my head of
That's for you, by
what made
the
me
way.
do it. Yeah.
Uh, I had a question. If there's anything else you wanted to share about the film, this would be the time. As I'm trying to
Yeah. So
remember.
I will say, so from Colorette that sometimes things don't work according to plan. Everything from this movie went it just went all to hell.
But yes, the drama go.
Yeah, so just weeks before shooting the film. So anyway, so like I said, I posted my request for cast and crew on the Texas Film
Wait,
Commission website.
no. Remember this when you're going to talk about, but my question is also related. So as a screenwriter, but I'm also sure that this was not your directorial debut, but how did you know that you wanted to step in as a direct, like being a writer, like a story, like being a writer specifically? How did you know that you also felt confident and you were sure enough that you wanted to step in as a director for this, since you were already starting to talk about logistics?
Yeah, so I knew from the very beginning I wanted to direct it, only because it was my story. I didn't want anybody else to put their twist on it. I didn't want it. I didn't want somebody to take my words on the page and go, "Okay, this is what this means to me." I know what it means to me. I wanted to get that vision on the screen. So that's why I wanted to direct it. It was my second film to direct, and it was challenging. So now going back to what I was going to say, this is how challenging it was. So I did a casting call. I auditioned a couple different people to play Milo. There was a gentleman down in Waco, Texas, that I chose, and so he was attached to the film for months and months and months before shooting, and then along with Sandra Caldwell, she got attached early on, right from the very beginning. Who's a trans woman, and you wouldn't know it. I, you know, People that have watched the film and said, "Why didn't you cast a trans woman?" Listen, jackass, she is a trans woman. She's stunning. She was 70 or 71 when we shot the film. She only came out as trans in 2017, and been acting for decades. And she transitioned when she was in her early 20s, I think. But anyway, weeks before shooting, my producer Paul Merriman contacts me and he says, "Hey, I hope you're sitting down. I need to break some news to you." And he says, "What?" He says,
My producer, shout out to Max. Oh my gosh, my
"Yeah,
producer. When your producer reaches out to you, either it's good or your heart will just dump.
yeah, yeah." And so I put a lot of faith in Paul because, like I said, he's very well schooled, really smart, and knows the business. So much. I'm still green. I'm really a novice, and so he says, "We need to replace your actor who you picked for Milo." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, because this is an important film. You need a professional actor, a long ball hitter, somebody that can really deliver. The person you have he's a professional extra. He does commercials and stuff like that. That's all he is. He's a professional extra." And then I said, "What's the name of the guy you have in mind?" And I was actually sick. I was sick in bed. So I'm on my laptop. I'm on the phone on my laptop, and I look up this guy. I said, "Oh my God, he's amazing, and he's got a resume this long. He's been on everything on television for decades. He was beautiful. And he said, but you have to make the decision really soon because he's getting ready to go to Italy with his family. And then when he comes back, he's got this going on. So we gotta lock him in soon. And then so it took me a good week or so to really get the courage to break the heart of the previous
Grieve.
actor.
You have to grieve that like version you thought in your head, or
Yeah.
what you thought what it was gonna be. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I had to let him down. It broke my heart. It broke his heart, of course. So I brought Bart McCarthy in on the project. And then we were all set to shoot in this town called Corsicana. We had all of our locations all set up. And then, but we were having a hard time trying to figure out how to financially get crew because a lot of the crew was going to be coming from Dallas to get them down to Corsicana. It was working out to be a nightmare. So
How
Paul said to me,
in terms of or like context, how far is that?
it's a good couple, it's about maybe 3 hours, I think, or two and a half hours from Dallas down to Corsicana. It's quite a drive. I forget. So then that's when Paul says, hey, listen, what's keeping you from shooting down in Austin where he's from? So Austin is only 2.5 hours south of me in Fort Worth. And then I said, why? He says, listen, I'm just finishing up a feature film with, I don't know if you've ever heard the name. Her name's Natasha Henstridge. She was famous in the 90s. She was in these alien movies called Species. She's stunning, gorgeous, and all this other stuff. He said, well, I'm just finishing up a film with her. My crew can roll right into your film seamlessly. I said, all right, I'll be down to Austin in 2 days. So we scout a location. So in the last weeks of shooting, I replaced my main actor, and then I totally moved the shooting to a different city, which was hugely stressful. And then, and the very first morning of shooting, we're shooting in the diner, and so Carlo Mendoza, amazing Filipino cinematographer. I told him,
Carlo Man. Wait, is his
yeah,
name? Yeah,
huh?
Carlo. Carlo Man?
Mendoza.
No, no, yeah, no, yeah, no. I think
Oh,
they call
oh, oh,
his name is like Carlo Man or something.
okay, yeah. Anyway, I told him, I said, I wanted to shoot this on anamorphic lens. And he's like, yeah, anyway. So we got the anamorphic lens. And that first morning of shooting, the anamorphic lens was not working with our camera. It was not talking. It was not communicating back and forth the way it should have. So we troubleshot it for a couple hours. Then we had to rush out and we had to get a new lens. It wasn't an anamorphic lens. And then from then on, yeah, we shot the film in 3 days. I won't get into all the details of all the drama because I don't want to be really bad mouthing
Yeah,
people, but
yeah, no, yeah, no, sure, yeah. Thanks for reminding me that. So you guys could ask by the time, obviously, this is already gonna be pre-recorded, but hopefully the film festival will ask. Just kidding.
yeah,
In person at least. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, yeah. Any more questions about Millie and Milo? I could talk briefly about the project I'm trying to throw together now.
Yeah, no, it's that's the perfect yet abrupt segue to
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Well, okay, let's not let's not abruptly transition, but maybe to finish this yeah, no, wait, actually I'm gonna cut this out. So I'm gonna use this as a new as a cutting point for me. So with that being said, I know we've been talking for a bit, and again, thank you for hopping on board and talking all things. But I just want to hear your thoughts on your feelings about because you wrote it, which was its own thing, its own festival, literally, and then you did the production, like the creation of it, and then
mhm.
this film fest route of it. I'm kind of curious to see what are your thoughts and feelings and lessons learned about taking Milly and Milo in the film fest circuit.
So, all right. So when you create a film, you create three films. First, you have the film that you write. Secondly, you have the film that you shoot. And then thirdly, you have the film that you edit, right? So, and then the edit isn't always what you had your first idea when you wrote the film. A completely different animal. And that's okay. That's okay. A lot of times, most filmmakers will say, "Hey, the real storytelling is in the editing," and that's probably quite accurate, I think. And if you have a great editor, they can really fine tune your story, right? As long as you have good footage, right? So getting the final product, there was so much footage that we couldn't use. I spent it was partly heartbreaking because I spent so much money on settings, and also we shot a lot of stuff in the hotel, and my lighting folks, my gosh, it was beautiful. The lighting in this footage in the hotel, the lighting coming in from the window at night, and how we lit the room, and my set designer. My God, I was like almost in tears by the time we finished shooting at night. This was our second night because it was so beautiful. I was so thankful. They did an amazing job. And ultimately, we had to cut it from the film, partly because things weren't working performance wise, and then also time wise. Most so for a short film, generally they like the films between 9 and 12 minutes. It's easier for them to block it that way. We were on the outskirts of 21 minutes or so at that point, and now you'll see it's down to 16 and a half minutes. But yeah, so there was a lot that was missing that I wish we could have kept, and part of me still feels like maybe the audience is missing some of those parts of the story, because there was still some people that had questions about how did Millie know to find Bart at the park playing chess or whatever. The footage that we cut would would clarify that a lot more. It still works as is, but it would clarify those questions so people didn't have that stuff in their head. Does that answer your question? Or
It does. It does. I was hearing a car go off. I was like, that better not be my car.
Mhm.
And no, 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 no. Again, thanks for. I know that was a lot, but I also wanted to, you know what I mean, like debunk like a lot of these things that obviously that is part of the process, but oftentimes like doesn't get enough like airtime or light.
Mhm.
So in this last part of the interview, I think we are currently at 1:15.
All
So
right.
good job. That was a nice
I get paid by the hour, so I'm good.
technique for the second. Okay, so now that like kind of Millie and Milo is done, yet kind of coming out of the dead, I feel like sometimes the best films you just kind of let it do its thing. It's like goes like this, goes back up, and then or wants to go back up and goes back to sleep.
Mhm.
Um, share with us your upcoming projects.
So so
Projects.
right. So like I said before, when a writer is getting ready to sit down and write a story, one thing that you really need to think about is, what do I want to say? And also, who do I want to say it to? Kind of, and I forgot to mention that part before. So, what do I want to say about this topic? I lost my younger brother in 2016. He was 2 years younger than me, and I was never. So it was classified as an accidental fentanyl overdose. I was never. I, I'm still back then, and even now, I wasn't convinced that it was accidental. So, and that's another whole part of this, that's another whole longer conversation that I won't take up time on. But I was never convinced it was accidental. So suicide, and plus I've had some friends that have committed suicide. So it's really it's an important subject. Doesn't matter who you are and what society and class or whatever where you are. A lot of people are affected by suicide for many different, people commit suicide for many different reasons. And it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So I thought, okay, I want to tell a story about suicide, but I want it to be I want to tell a suicide story, but I want it to be uplifting. I want it to be hopeful, right? So there's a famous American author, Nobel Prize winning author, Ernest Hemingway. All right. He was a man's man. He wrote some amazing stories, short stories, and novels. And committed suicide at his home in Idaho in 1961. So I thought, all right, if James Cameron can is it James Cameron who did Titanic? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. So you have a love story, you have a real event, the Titanic sinking, but the story is the love story, right? Rose and Jack. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to tell a story about two people talking about suicide, and the backdrop is Ernest Hemingway's suicide. So Ernest Hemingway was famous for when he lived in the Keys in the 50s. He was famous for cats. He had surrounded by cats. They were polydactyl cats. Meant they were all six-toed cats, and he was surrounded by cats. So he's this big burly game hunter, boxer, matador, bullfighting guy, big burly guy. But he loved his cats. He really loved his cats. So there's no record that he had cats when he moved to his home in Idaho with his fourth wife, Mary. There were no historical documents saying that he had cats there, but I put two cats there now. So basically, the beginning of the story, he commits suicide, and now the story is just his two cats talking about life and death, fate and destiny, and how you can change and the hopeful part is if you're feeling down, how you can change your trajectory to get you out of that path that where you harm yourself, right? So that's the hopeful part of the story. And so because there are two cats talking, it's going to have to be fully animated. And so right now I'm talking with a number of animators and trying to slowly piece a team together so I can figure out what a budget's, because I've never had anything animated, so I don't know. So that's the next one I'm going to be working on.
I know another person I'll refer you to. Oh, this is your animated one. I thought the other one, the one, I guess two people inside a room, but I guess it's not.
Oh, no, 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 yeah, yeah, that's so th I'm gonna do the Hemingway one first, and the other one, the 2
That
people inside the cubicle, the signature one. It's called The Signature, where
yeah,
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 I
no, no,
forgot.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
yeah,
Well,
so that's it. Try to find something, use your storytelling in a way where you wanna tell people something. You want people to learn from it. You want people to take something away from it. That's what storytelling is. It's not only entertaining, but there's a catharsis when somebody goes, "Oh my gosh, that I can relate to that character and that pain that they went through and I can see there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I can find my way out of this darkness," kind of thing. It's not all just entertainment. It's, learning something and, hopefully, changing somebody's bad trajectory. So that's all I gotta say about that.
period. We made it. I mean, that sounded like my last question, anyways. Just what happens when you talk to someone who also can host too? I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, I was just trying to save you that's why I rambled on so much. I was trying to save you the trouble of having to, reformat a question because I knew if I hit on some other things that I knew you would probably ask about, it just saved time. Just save time, that's all.
and we're still at an hour and a half. That's still
Yeah, I
long.
still get paid the same, right?
Yeah. Wait, hold on. I do have one final question. It's a question. I wasn't sure if I was gonna bring it back, to like moving forward, but then I think because you're the first guest in the season that I'm talking to, and I think it's fitting. So that question is, what is the legacy you want to leave behind?
That's a good question. So just assuming that I'm still being realistic and that, I don't ever expect that. I mean, you always want to swing for the fence, like, thinking that I really want to be able to write something that will win an Oscar, you know. But I'm realistic. The chances of that happening are pretty slim. Could it happen? Yeah, absolutely. Am I going to try to make it happen? You damn right I am. But I'm realistic that if it doesn't happen, that's fine. So my legacy would be if it doesn't happen, that's fine, but I've had a great time doing it. And And it's feeding my soul to be creative like this. It'd be like a cello player sitting behind bars in a prison, looking at their cello on the other side of the bars, and they can't play it. You know, it would feel like that if I didn't do it. So yeah, I love being creative. I love writing, telling stories, you know, entertaining people, maybe giving them something to think about. So my legacy would be like, yeah, follow your passion, even if it's not filling your bank account.
Wow.
But
That's a
but don't give up on the dream because it could still happen, right?
wait, hold on, say it again.
Yeah, because maybe somebody's going to see this podcast. Somebody who's like, hey, let's let's check out what Doug's writing. Let's check out what Adrian's doing. Next thing you know, you're driving in your Rolls Royce. You never know, right?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely like the last thing I want to say add to is like you definitely speak on like the journey, because for me, like, I mean, this endeavor was never like the whole podcast thing was never about making money. It was actually about to help fill a personal void in me in terms of like feeling isolated. I mean, especially when I started this during lockdown, and now that I'm here, like I'm literally now in my next chapter of my life, being away from family and being away from family and friends in San Diego. Not too far, but still far enough to be like, woo, I have to start fresh, So, like this conversation, this whole like episode really has reminded me the power of the series, which is connecting, and then thanks for taking time to hop on a call with me and recording this. Yeah, we'll
Can I
see
say
each
one
other.
last thing?
No, you may not. This is the end of the episode.
I'm going to. You just said connecting. So for people connecting, look in your local neighborhoods or your local cities for film festivals. If you're a creative person, if you're a cast member, a crew member, a writer, or whatever, go to film festivals. Get your business cards made up and connect with people that there that way. And I will go back to Austin Film Festival. That's the best place that I've found for connecting
Yeah,
with like-minded individuals. It's a huge networking event. It's the third week of October every year.
yeah. Actually, before we end this, yeah, talk a bit about I guess the adjustment and the sacrifice that you decided to make, because obviously when I first presented to you, oh, you should do the Las Vegas Filipino Short Film Festival. You were like, oh, it's the same weekend as Austin, and you were like, no, I'm not gonna go. I can't go. But then you had a change of heart, you know.
Right. I go to Austin every year. One of my best buddies is down there. He's a filmmaker down there. He's a teacher in the local and in the Austin school district. So we hang out every year. I've been going every year since 2017. And then so yeah, and like I said, it's a huge. All my friends go there every year. Everybody that I've connected with, and I see them there every year, and it's great to see them. And you really learn a lot because it's a screenwriters conference. You're there listening to screenwriters like Shane Black, who did all the Lethal Weapon movies, and Michael Arndt, who did Little Miss Sunshine, and I think Toy Story 2. You're there being spoken to by the top writers in Hollywood, right? So it's a huge thing. James V. Hart. And so I love going there every year. But when I found out that my film made the official selection in Las Vegas, I was like, oh man, this will be my last time to sit with a live audience and watch their reaction when the credits roll. That's more important to me as a filmmaker. Then and also at the same weekend, the New York Long Island Film Festival, one of my I submitted a feature screenplay to them, it's being nominated for an award up there. It's all the same weekend, but I'm going to Las Vegas. And I used to live in Las Vegas years ago when I was stationed out there. And what I'm also really excited about too, because I have I like to say I have sinigang in my blood and adobo in my blood because my wife is Filipino, my daughter's
Of course,
Filipino.
gang.
Huh?
Are you talking about the food?
Yeah, I was talking about the food, sinigang. So I'm so excited to be surrounded with Filipino filmmakers, and being able to check out the cultural district that just opened up, which is really cool. When my wife and my daughter and I we go back and we're going to Vegas in November for a family vacation, we're gonna check it out, and it'd be kind of really great to meet Sean Rosen, the one of the directors of the film festival. He and I have been chatting back and forth, and so it'd be kind of cool to see him. He's a filmmaker too. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm really super thrilled. Like I text you this morning, my luggage is packed. I leave Thursday. That's in 4 days, right? I leave Thursday. My luggage is all packed. All I got to do is throw my laptop and my toiletries and my backpack, and I'm not even gonna check in luggage. I'm just rolling away luggage, going on the airplane. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, no. I mean, I'm very excited for you too that you get to experience this because I know that when we first met, you kind of had shared some of your like, like sad, like sadness that your beautiful film didn't get to have didn't get to have as much reach as you hoped it would. And I was like, you know
but
what?
yeah,
When I thought about this one, I was like, yeah, no, I was like, I think this one is a perfect fit. And then when you obviously told me you made it, I was like, oh, cool. And then the fact that you said we going, I was like, oh, this is it.
yeah, and that wasn't really a hard decision either. I just, although the only part about it was I already had my badge for my producer's badge for Austin, which I lost all the money on that, so I won't get that back, and that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any last words? Any closing remarks?
No, I just so when it comes to reaching out to people and networking, you have to do it because it opens up so many friendships and so many doors and connections, and that's why we're here talking together because I saw you on at the online at the that you had won from the film festival. I hunted you down. I reached out. Hey man, Adrian. Yeah, I'm Doug. I'm the guy that did Millie and Milo. Blah blah blah. And we've been connected.
Who's this person? Get away.
Yeah. Who's this white guy?
No, no, who's this Forex trading? Come on.
Yeah. So yeah, so just for all you people in the creative world, you know, networking, reach out, make friends, and that's how.
And business cards too, because the event that I business cards, or
Yeah,
even if it's digital, because the event that I photographed last night for a quinceañera, I had like three people ask me for business cards, and I work for like I'm not gonna say the company, but I'm working for with a different company as a freelance, and I was like, I'm so loyal. I was like, I didn't bring or make business cards because I was
yeah.
like, I'm for someone. So have
I
business cards too when you meet people. That's how you seal the business with a business card because your conversation can go places, but if they don't remember or know where to contact you, then it kind of you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, be prepared. Like I said, open your heart up to strangers that have the same like-minded brain that you have, and connect. Because like I said, before you know it, you're like, oh man, I really work on this I need to work on this project, but I don't. I need to find a set designer, and then you call either yeah, I live right beside a set designer, or you're a set designer, or what that's how you get things done. Make friends, don't burn any bridges, be gracious.
That honk is an indicator that this episode needs to end. So on
Yeah,
that note, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in to our pilot. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of season 4, Soul Supremacy, where we talk most things, all things unapologetic, all things passion and in pursuit of. And I feel like I want to call you Doug. I feel like Doug
yeah,
is.
Doug.
I was
Yeah,
like, again, thank you for coming on and sharing us your story with you. It was really meaningful to have your perspective as someone that's like you've had your years to live, but now you're like really going back for your second chance. So thank you
yeah,
for sharing your story with
yeah.
us.
Thanks. And you can find me on DougSpaltrow.com. There's
Yes,
links.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh! Wait, hold on. Oh, that's a section I forgot to. Where can people find you? Sorry, this is gonna be a cut. I'm gonna cut this.
Well, you can put it in the detail, right?
No, no, yes, but I want you to talk about it too, just like a little bit.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
before we
that's
let you go. I told you I was rusty. I forgot to ask him, where can people find you?
Yeah, DougSpaltrow.com. That's my website, and there's links to my movies. And then you'll see I do a bunch of photos from BTS photos, behind the scenes photos of my films. Um, yeah, there's some fun stuff on there. I also have a Filipino vlog too from we have a home in the Philippines, and I'm traveling around and cooking. Yeah, I'm cooking Filipino food. That's
Was it
Boss Dagul, Dagul.
there? Wasn't I your 100 subscriber? I feel like I remember that.
I
I
think you
forget.
were the 100. I'm at 104 right now. And I still have so much footage that I need to upload. I just got to edit, get off my butt.
Yeah, we did it. Thank y'all. See you at the next episode.
See
Bye.
you see you in a few days, buddy.